I have a couple of questions or comments of my own before I ask a call on the town manager. First, with regard to Mr. Kirk's statement, I'm not hearing exactly the same thing as you are in terms of the neighborhood impacts of students. Some of the folks who've come before the council have said that quite a few of the students, maybe even most of the students, are actually quite well behaved and are good neighbors. The issue that we have in this town is the quality of life in our neighborhoods. And the concern, besides the bad behavior students, and they're out there, but the concern we have is that when a neighborhood ceases to be a single family neighborhood, the entire character of the neighborhood changes. We have seen maps produced by the neighborhood preservation group that are demonstrating how many houses have been bought on which street, some on my own, and how many then follow after the first one or two become investor-owned rentals. So I think that the issue you identified in your opening comment, Mr. Kirk, part of the issue, which is parties, rowdiness, noise. But it missed, I think, a significant part of what Councilor Moran's committee is looking at, which is the quality of life in this town. We are seeing before our very eyes that investor-owned properties are not maintained as well as owner-occupied properties. So I think it's important for you to know and understand that as well, Mr. Kirk. I don't know if you want to react, you can, but I'm adding to your statement from our point of view in this town.
I think I would say that the question marks are not so much on effect. I think the question marks are much more on cause. And so I don't dispute the concerns that people have about single-family homes becoming rental properties. I don't know of anybody who would want that in their neighborhood.
Yeah. I would also note on the 70% figure, I think I would frame Mr. Kotchenberger's comment a little bit differently than he did. Quite simply, if you maintain the 70% ratio, but you increase the bottom line number, that's more student bodies looking for places to live. So maintaining the 70% ratio doesn't help the issue, because that creates, given all the other factors that you've cited, creates a need for more housing, which, as we in town have seen it, a need for more conversions from single-family neighborhoods to student-occupied housing. So you increase the number of students, you increase, even though you keep the 70% ratio, there are more people looking for space.
Yeah, and part of the reason we wanted to come here tonight was to talk about those changing enrollment projections. I think 5,000 was seen as a very big number. And
I would also say, as someone who tries to listen very, very carefully to everything that everybody says in public participation, my colleagues and our visitors, when you came here before, Associate Vice President Sally Reese was here, and she said, and I will not attempt to quote her words, when she gave us the high out-year projections of Next Gen that Councilor Raymond was referring to, she said, you know something? If our operating budgets don't get better soon, none of this is going to happen, or it's going to be capped at a certain point. Those were not her exact words, but she said it very clearly that the original vision of Next Gen was not necessarily going to play out that way. And yes, you've reinforced that tonight. So I listened to her, and I listened to her to you, and I appreciate that. One last comment. I will call on Ms. Raymond in a moment. Is you classify Yukon as suburb large, or whoever does this chart that Mr. Gilbert produced classifies as a suburb large. I don't think we're suburb large. I think we're suburb small. And if you look at it from that standpoint, we basically are where we are at the very least where we should be. And argue some people in town say it should be harder, should be higher. But
Yeah, if I could just comment on that, that's U.S. News characterization of what Storrs, Connecticut is, so not ours.
Yikes. Okay. Ms. Raymond?
I just wanted to make the point, too, people talk in terms of the quality of life of the neighborhoods. It's also a very economic issue. I mean, it's probably one of the single most important purchases that a middle-class person can make is a home, their house. You just bought one. I mean, that's a big investment, and it's a major investment for people, and they buy those homes with a great deal of thought as to what the neighborhood is that they're going into. And a whole host of issues, which are quality of life issues. But then if over time the neighborhood changes demonstrably because of private sector people coming in and buying up all your neighbors' homes when they are leaving, it's an economic issue when you go and turn around. You know, all of a sudden this isn't a lovely little neighborhood with single-family folks and their children. It's become... And it's not to say that the students aren't necessarily good neighbors. I'm not making any judgments in that regard, but it's a pure economic issue as to whether you can take a major investment and turn around and sell it for the profit that you'd like to see. So it goes well beyond just quality of neighborhood or quality of life. It's economic.
I would say Councilor Raymond's concern is also what we're hearing from residents who are coming to this council and who are coming to Councilor Moran's committee. Yes, part of what they're saying, besides the way that the tenor of neighborhoods changing, is it's affecting the value, the resale value of their home, of their homes. I can't expect you to come up with a way to interfere with the private market. I don't know that that's possible. But it's a real live concern, and I think we need to keep talking about it. Mr. Hart?
Thank you for coming. Two questions for you quickly. One, what do you think is the best way for the town to stay abreast of major changes in enrollment? And then secondly, and perhaps more importantly, could we consider a process in which the town could have some input or comment on proposed major changes in enrollment? I'm thinking of the Town University Relations Committee as a potential venue for both items.
I tuned into the February 22nd council meeting, and I found myself wishing for the part of it that dealt with UConn, that someone from UConn had been here to participate during that rather than now and after the fact. And I think it's fair to say we are always happy to come before you to discuss any issue where town and gown meet, whether it's here or the Town University Relations Committee or at a staff level. We're more than happy to provide updates on any issue that you'd like to talk about, whether it's an enrollment or another. And I think the Town University Relations Committee is a great place for the town to share its views on whether it's enrollment or some other issue, because Michael and I are both there. Several other senior UConn staff people are there. And so there are a lot of avenues for the town to express its view on things to us, and we're always happy to listen and work with you when we can.
Mr. Hart, you done?
Well, perhaps we could give this some consideration then at the Town University Relations Committee level. Perhaps it's a standing agenda item once a year or something along those lines, just so that we can be made aware in advance of pending decisions. And if there's a way for us to provide comment or input into that, I think that would be very much appreciated and valued.
Great. Thank you. I want to express my appreciation for your coming here tonight and for taking the questions. I think that 3 years, Ms. Cruikshank was at the last one. It was at least 3 years ago. Could have been 4. I joined the council in 2. Okay, then you were brand new at the time. So it was in 2013. We need to have more frequent sessions like this. And since you asked to be invited and expressed a willingness to come, Mr. Kirk, we are going to take you up on that. And we want to know, part of the follow-up, as Mr. Hart suggested, may well be in the Town University Relations Committee. But I think that all of us who are responsible to the people who elected us need to be brought in. And this was good, and we need to do more of it.
Well, in general, in my recent experiences, the relations between the council and the university in general have been very positive and productive. Not that we've agreed on everything all the time, we haven't, but we're happy to communicate as often as you think, as often as you'd like.
And I thank you, and I thank all of you for giving up your evening. Mr. Hart, you have a report.
I do. Thank you, Mayor. I've distributed copies of my report to the council. There are some additional spare copies on the table to my left.
You have one, Bill?
I will try to hit
I have two.
several of these items quickly. Someone missing a copy?
No, I have doubles.
Okay. Well, I guess you're special tonight, Mayor.
I don't think so.
First, in the category of council business, we recently, as the council knows, we recently set a goal, had a goal-setting retreat. We had that session on Saturday, March 5th. Thought it was a productive session. We're compiling the notes from the meeting, and we'll schedule a follow-up session in the near future to complete that exercise. Moving to future agenda items, a couple key items for next time for the March 28th meeting. We're going to provide a report on senior and accessible transportation, and we're also going to review a few traffic authority items. One is the request for additional accessible parking at the community center, and the other involves traffic safety at the intersection of